done from a topographical standpoint. That is, they are a topographical drainage basin, areas with some common topography. That's why they're a little irregular in shape. However, certain areas were picked to kind of clarify what we've done, and that's why you can see that Main Street is segmented out, particularly the industrial area in the southwest corner of town as well. Just kind of segmented out on its own. Dividing the areas up was a step that allowed us to now start generating information on an area-by-area basis. Two main procedures we've used thus far to do that were, one, reviewing existing information. Probably first and foremost of that is Board of Health information on septic systems. Because dealing with wastewater, we come to an issue almost immediately of what happens with wastewater in town right now. It's disposed of exclusively by septic system, with the exception of some small plants. The second thing that we've got, that we've done that is of great help to us is distribution of the wastewater questionnaire. Questionnaire asking people for information about their septic systems and for information on a few public opinion issues that are related to potential projects that town can undertake as we go forward. And in your packet, there's a number of pieces of information which I'll talk about a little bit, but I'm just going to glance over some of these things we've done. We have taken that questionnaire, distributed it, received it back. We've analyzed a lot of the data from it already. We're in the process of finishing that analysis. We've also analyzed some of this additional data that we talked about from the Board of Health, some existing water quality information, existing soils information for the town. We've utilized a lot of the town's geographical information system, GIS data, which has provided us a good basis to analyze. And it's brought us to a point where we now have a collection of information. And we're at that point where we now need to bring this needs evaluation, this, what do people have problems with, where are they, to a head. And that's the point we've reached. Just a sample of some of the types of information we've gathered. If you flip through your packet, Table 1 shows some septic system repair information collected from the Board of Health data. Notable here, I'm sure everybody that has tried to sell their house knows that there were some major changes to the Title V regulations which govern septic systems in the state of Massachusetts. Those changes took place in 1995. So if you can see in this packet, the average number of repairs townwide prior to 1995 were approximately 29 repairs per year. The average number of repairs subsequent to 1995 running through the year 2000 was approximately 103 per year. Significant increase in repairs. That's consistent fairly much with other towns statewide. But it drives to the point that there's been increased attention on septic systems since the changes in the Title V regulations as need be by the rules. And it really brings questions of what are people going to do to dispose of their wastewater to the forefront in these discussions. The second piece of data that we've developed was actually from your GIS system, utilizing our breakdown of the study areas. It just shows how many lots there are in various study areas. Some areas are large, some are small. It also shows information on how many of those lots in each study area are developed currently and undeveloped, to give you a sense of how densely developed all the current information is here. The next few slides, the color pie charts, I think are basically to try to give you a little bit of flavor of the type of questions on the questionnaire, if any of you remember it, and some of the answers that we got that I think were of value to us. The first one is a response to question 7 about how many bedrooms people had in their residences. Most people have a 3-bedroom or less home, 66%. The average, numerical average from the information we've obtained is that the average number of bedrooms in the area is approximately 3.5. Just jumping through these quickly. Question 13, how old is your wastewater disposal system, is an interesting one. It's a bar chart. If you notice, very large number of systems are over 20 years old. The interesting thing about the 20-year-old systems is the original Title V was passed about 20 years ago, which was the first time the state started governing these septic systems. Most of the systems built about 20 years ago don't really follow very stringent guidelines for construction of Title V septic systems. Also notable in this is that there's a large number of systems built in the last 5 years under the new Title V system. So you probably also have a high number of systems in town already that conform, but they're probably mostly those ones for new houses for new construction. It seems strange. We ask questions like, how often do you pump your septic tank? Most people pump them once every 2 to 3 years. That's actually pretty good. We find it's less frequent in many communities, and that shows a lot of people paying attention to it. However, it can also show that more people may have any feeling of this system. Question 15, what type of problems or how often do you have problems with your system? Most people are saying occasionally, but certainly quite a few people having consistently recurring problems with their septic systems. Question 16 talks about when those problems occur. And yes, most of the problems occur in the spring and when it's wet, and when it's raining, and in the winter. Those types of problems are common because the septic systems at those times of year are affected by high groundwater. Not really surprising, but some of the types of information we'll collect for confirmatory data. Question 17, what types of problems we've had? People having problems such as odors, pumping, frequency, ponding of systems, or backup of systems. And then the last slide that we've given you is one of the public opinion questions that were asked. This is a little bit of a stretch to go beyond data collection and try to get a feel for where people were. And basically this question was about what types of solutions would people feel comfortable with and want to support. And you can see a great number of people felt comfortable with supporting a centralized or a regional wastewater treatment facility. Far smaller numbers of people comfortable with neighborhood type systems, or even shared systems where 1 or 2 homes will use a single septic system. Those types of solutions are not often desirable to the public. But what we do find is that most people want to get rid of their septic system when they feel a conventional type approach. Having a sewer pipe that carries it away from the home is the way to go. So not exactly surprising, but when you do take the time to distribute a questionnaire, we feel like the opportunity to collect some public opinion information is very valuable. Just quickly, what we're going to be continuing to do now, because we started to bring the needs evaluation to a close, is to try to use that data and come up with a more concise appreciation for what the real needs are. In order to do that, we need to follow a few steps. There are still a few tasks to be done under phase 2. You can see on the progress report I've given you. That includes not just making the needs data more concise, but prioritizing areas, finding out what areas of town have a high level of needs and need to be dealt with in order of priority. What areas of town probably don't need any type of additional systems that can remain on Title V or septic systems for a long period of time. And trying to build a scale to give us an appreciation of how to deal with that through the planning process. The second thing we need to do is we need to screen wastewater alternatives. What types of things can we look at to solve people's problems when we do have them? And what are the specifics of those? What type of collection system? Should we use clustered systems or small neighborhood systems? Should we look at larger systems? Should we be going to Berry site? Or should we be going to DPW site? The types of technology that we use for treatment. All those things need to be evaluated in alternative considerations. Probably the last phase of what we need to start right now is the public participation phase. We really kicked that off with the questionnaire, but it now steps into a new phase, which is the formation of a wastewater planning advisory. And Dave's going to talk a little more about that when we get into it. Just quickly, I wanted to touch on a couple of things. One is the schedule for the work that we're doing. Obviously, we completed phase 1. It was completed last year. We are moving quickly through phase 2. The 3 remaining phases include more detailed hydrogeological analysis of the disposal sites to make sure that we can actually get the wastewater into the ground and find out exactly how much we can get, and to evaluate the environmental impacts associated with putting that water into the ground. Developing a detailed recommended plan for, this area needs a collection system, and this area should have a collection system, and that one should have a cluster system. Some area may just need some assistance dealing with septic systems. Those types of detailed analyses we can bring together for a real written plan that tells the town what they're going to be doing, not just in the first few years of coming up after you finish your plan, but long-term plan through the 20-year time period. What's going to happen in 10 years. And obviously last, and Dave referred to it quite well, but not least, is trying to give you a document that gives you the ability to navigate the difficult regulatory agency approval system that's out there in the state. And that starts with, in the phase we're in now, what we call an environmental notification form, which initiates the MEPA process from Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, which is the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. That review is the chief environmental review that's done for projects of this nature, large-scale projects that have the ability to affect in a major way the environment in your town. That's the level that the state seeks to do them in. And it's really why you're doing a comprehensive wastewater management plan, because it gives you the ability to then go forward and do capital projects because you've planned for them appropriately. And that's really what we're getting to now is the end of this process, you're going to have a document, but it's also going to be, as Dave said, your guide to the permitting process. And that's really the key. Just quickly on the budget, you've approved $400,000. We're only a portion of the way through that right now. That's going to take us through all 5 phases. And it's also been approved for a state revolving fund funding through the state appropriated to DEP. And it's a low interest loan, zero interest, which David,
before I go, is there any questions?
Do you have any questions from the board? Yep.
No.
Any questions?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The front end,
Oops, excuse me, David. I'm sorry, Mr. Jones.
Quick question. Page 4, table 2. Number of lots. Undeveloped. Is this town lots, private lots, just empty lots, developable lots? This chart could be misread. I thought I'd have some clarity what you mean by undeveloped.
It's an excellent question. This is data straight off the GIS system. Basically what it is they're either developed or they're not developed. It's not talking whether they're wetlands, whether they're town-owned lots. Those are all included. So the number is the highest.
Right, that's what gives you all this, so I thought I'd have to
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Stan?
on the front of your package, the letter to Tom and yourself, the memo from myself regarding the advisory committee. And also included was a draft of the mission of that committee. Now again, the DEP wants the community involved in the process that Ken had just described. In the old days, as the community matured, as we are, we go into that last big phase of maturity, and that's sewers. And it always driven by commercial industrial development, tax rate relief, and so forth. Things have changed, and it's from an environmental slant now, first and foremost. Yes, they are sensitive to commercial industrial and tax relief and so forth, but that is not the major consideration anymore in this process. It's an environmental, it's an all community evolution. So to respect that, we, the town, has to form this advisory committee, which is fine. Now, to assure the knowledge of the community is there, they specifically are asking for those agencies, if you will, of the town that are about the town to have membership. So on the second page, as you can see, obviously, for obvious reasons, Board of Health, a member of the Board of Selectmen, Conservation Commission, CPC, Finance Committee, Water Commission, and then the other stakeholders, as you can see, are more, they're a blend. They're from conservation areas such as Mountain Ponds Association and the Ipswich River Watershed Association, but then a member from the North Reading Business Association, a realtor with strong knowledge of the community, and then the one resident with a general nonpartisan interest. What we're would ask the board tonight through Tom is to